quick introduction. I'm doing this, as I mentioned to you, but I'm going to say it for them, to allow policyholders that may or may not know that this option exists. And if they do know it exists, typically they have serious trust issues, understandably so. As always, we start off as strangers, and then it's impossible to not build a relationship. I know that yours was with Brian, obviously, but wanted to take the chance to get to talk to you and see your full feedback. Be as open as you want, and go ahead, introduce yourself and go on into it.
Well, my name's Abigail, and I started receiving my policy at the age of 18, but I filed the policy whenever I was only 2 years old because of my dad's passing. And my mom fought in court for a very long time for me to get the money that I deserved because of the nature of his passing. It was in an awful accident because I'm from Texas, and that's the main source of income around here. He had passed whenever I was only 6 months old, and she fought for a very long time for me to get the money, which in my policy, it's a structured settlement. I'm not sure about everyone else or everyone that you work with, but that's the reason I started receiving it. I originally was receiving $750 a month at 18, and I was getting a biannual lump sum every 6 months, which I believe was in December and June or July. I can't exactly remember. It's been so long now.
It looks like, well, this one just has monthly, so I couldn't tell you, but I could pull it up, but that doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Whenever I turned 23, I started receiving my monthly, and Brian called me one day, and as a 23-year-old, thought I was never going to own a home in today's economy. It was a really hard time because me and my husband had gotten married the year before, and we were pregnant with our third child and wondering if we were ever going to be homeowners or if we were going to rent forever, which is not something ideal for a family of 5. So when we got the phone call from Brian, I asked Brian if I could talk to my husband about it first. And I did a little bit of research because I feel like it's normal for any person to start questioning about who this random person on the phone is.
100%. That's why I'm doing this.
So I started doing some research. He told me what your company name was and his full name, and any questions I had, he gladly answered, no hesitation at all. It was very hard to understand at first, especially with it being my first time dealing with it, because I have done this twice. I did this for y'all twice. So I asked all of the questions, and he answered very gladly and put it down in a way that I would understand it very easily, because I'm not really all about the legal work, which was really hard for me. And legal terms are a lot, especially in this situation when you don't understand all of it.
They could be really intimidating, but the simple way I always put it is the numbers are by far the most important part, right? Obviously, there's some terminology in there that you should know, but a lot of times, since it has to apply to every single circumstance and every single insurance company, there's a lot of cookie cutter type of verbiage in there that's all just legal jargon. So it could get overwhelming. So I understand.
It can get a bit overwhelming, but baby, it's in the basket, honey. No, the one over there next to the fridge, honey. It is a little bit overwhelming at first, but when you have people that actually genuinely care about you understanding it definitely eases the anxiety about the whole situation. Yes. When you start to go through the process, there's going to be a lot of questions involved. And I spoke to a few other companies because I didn't know I was able to do this until Brian had called. My brothers also received something like this. One of my brothers did this years ago to buy a house as well. And he had told me about it, and he had a terrible experience with whoever he dealt with. He told, whenever I first started getting my money, it's something he told me to never do, because he regretted it for every single day. He still doesn't receive anything, and he doesn't even have the house anymore. And there's a lot of things that happened to him. But I asked him what company he went through, and he wasn't able to really remember the name. But whenever I brought up Brian with Black Square, he knew immediately that was not the company I was dealing with.
And that's a bad sign, right? When you can't remember the rep's name. And typically that's super common because we're a smaller shop, right? So we're more mom and pop, if you want to call it, which allows us to put more focus on our clients, which I find important. We could grow. But I'd rather stay how we are and focus more so, like you said, on the clients. Don't look at you guys as just a number. So it's good for me to hear that Brian handled it how I expect him to handle it. So I appreciate you saying that.
I genuinely felt like Brian was a closer friend than he was in this for a business venture. And I still feel that way. Me and Brian don't really talk, and we built a friendship during our business together.
Yeah.
And that was very genuine, and that made me feel very comfortable with the whole situation. So when going through all of this, it was very confusing for a while because I am not good with numbers either.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to understand everything when it involved the amount of my settlement and everything that we went through. And whenever I actually sat down and I read through the paperwork and I asked all of the questions that I needed to ask, Brian made it make a lot of sense.
And again, it could get confusing because you're talking about present value and payments that don't exist yet. And especially when it's just black and white and you're sitting there by yourself and you're staring at the numbers. And if you don't think about the plan that's going in place of it, it could be very intimidating. But I'm glad that overall you decided to take the leap. Because do you have any regrets about the two transactions? Okay.
I have no regrets at all.
Yeah,
I was very, very hesitant at first, though. It was, in fact, very intimidating. And at the very first, I was second guessing if I really wanted to do this because, like I said earlier, it was the reason I received my money to begin with was my father. And I was kind of scared that that was going to be the only thing I lost from him. But it ended up being one of the best decisions I ever made in my adult life. And that's because at the end of the day, like, the monetary value of things helped in the economy in ways that I never thought it would. Me and my family were able to buy a house because of it. We were able to get a new vehicle because of it. And we were able to comfortably bring in our third child into our family because of everything. And we're doing renovations on our house when we never thought we were going to be able to do that either. We own an acre of land and an entire house now.
Awesome.
And
I love to hear that. And not to cut you off, but I'm curious because now, if you bought that house now, the interest rates are insane. So, what do you know what kind of, or did you pay it off cash right away?
We paid it all cash.
Oh, even better. So my statement's irrelevant. I was going to bring up the point of interest, but it's irrelevant to you. So, but that's awesome. That's awesome to hear that.
I was able to get enough to comfortably buy my house and acre lot all cash and still have money left over to buy stuff to renovate the house because it's an older house and that's okay. Yeah. I don't mind that. But we've been here since August. We moved in August and my oldest son started school in the district that we moved to here. And we have not once regretted it. Me and my husband talk about it at least once a week, and we don't regret our decision at all.
I love to hear it. Because look, it's one of those things where it does not make sense for everyone. I'm not gonna, and I'll be the first to tell people, like you'd be surprised how much business I've turned down because it's not the right thing to do, because that's just the facts. And maybe that's what your brother's situation was. I don't know. Or it's just he had a bad experience because the company didn't care, right? Mm-hmm. But either way, it's relevant either way. So look, I don't want to have to make you talk forever, obviously, but I know you did have two experiences. On the second experience, what did you accomplish with that?
Are you talking about whenever I got the larger lump sum of money? So the first lump sum of money, well, let me go ahead. The first lump sum was $40,000, I believe. I think it was $40,000. We bought a new vehicle as we were bringing our third child into the world. Okay. And that my second experience, we had gotten a much larger amount. And that's what we used to buy our house and start renovating it. And when we went and saw the judge, it was a very easy decision for her because she did have a few questions. She asked me if we were reliant on my money financially, and I'm not. I have never been.
So that's a perfect example. Sorry to cut you off, but this is a good segue. Some people are. So
if you are, then it's probably not a good idea for you.
And sometimes the monthly amount's not enough to keep up with rent. And we could structure it in a way where they could either pay rent ahead of time to when they're in a better position, maybe they get a better career or whatever the case may be, or they buy a property cash. And if you do the math on the interest, if they were to get a loan, it makes sense. But yes, as I mentioned before, it doesn't always make sense. It's just a fact.
And that's the truth. For us, it made the most sense because we weren't completely financially dependent on my monthly for us to stay afloat. That's why we went ahead and we told Brian, I messaged Brian the second time around and asked him if we were able to do it again. Initiated with him the second time. The first time he was so caring and genuine that I felt comfortable enough to come back. which is, oh my gosh, which is something
Hijacking
that,
the
yes,
phone.
it's funny. It's something that I didn't see myself doing, especially after the first round, because the first round we open it, then you open it. The first time we were comfortable and things were okay, but when we had heard about the property that we're at now, we were like, well, I told my husband, I don't know if I can do that again. And as soon as I messaged Ryan, I think it was within the hour, he had let me know that we can do it again. And he called me and we started speaking about all the different ways that I could get what I needed, whether I needed to continue to get a monthly payment or not, which is amazing because other companies don't offer that.
Sometimes they'll make it seem like your only option is to give up everything, and that's the
Yeah,
furthest thing from the truth. Furthest thing.
that's what I was about to say. I
90% of
don't
the
know.
time, I'd say even higher, I recommend always to do a partial if you can. Obviously, if you're in a situation where you need the most money possible, that's different. But again, I'm glad that this is nice for me too. It's like I'm getting two birds, one stone. It's good for clients and it's good for me to hear as a business owner that my
Yeah.
reps are handling things how they should be handling them. You know what I mean?
Oh, y'all are doing a fantastic job because whenever I did find out about, do you need me to open it? No, you can use your teeth to open it if you need to. It's just a fruit bar. Whenever I found out about all of this, I was very confused. So I started calling up other companies and consulting with people that I knew a bit of legal jargon is the best
Yeah.
way I know how to describe it. And some of the other companies won't offer you a partial at all. They will tell you that your only choice is to give all of your money up. And to me, those people are powered by greed, if that makes any
Oh,
sense.
not they are fully powered by greed. Fully powered.
No.
And
I don't like
what the
kids as a
problem
person.
is sorry, I keep cutting you off. I apologize.
You're
But
okay.
the problem is a lot of them are what I call order takers, so they don't really understand, nor do they care that this could potentially put you in a downward spiral, if you will.
Oh
They
yeah.
just don't care. Like they'll do the transaction with you and you'll never hear from them again. Obviously, it's completely understandable that you're gonna naturally lose some contact after it's done, but periodically you should be being checked up on. And it's typically they just reach out to you when they need something, and that's not right.
No, I totally agree. It definitely made the experience feel more personal and less like I was just a number to somebody else
Yeah.
whenever Brian and I were dealing with each other. And he still messages me and checks in on me, and every now and then I'll tell him updates about our home. We're updating our home. We have windows to replace and we have things that we're doing to it that would have never been a thing had he not called me. And I am so thankful for that
Awesome.
because I genuinely feel like I would be stuck in the same place paying rent and never seeing anything of our own from it.
I feel like
I,
that's common too. Is like it's fear of the unknown, right? So if you don't like, if you made the decision to just shut down what you said thought about in the beginning, you may
good job.
be in your same situation, but the fact that you took that leap of faith, if you will, and it look what
Yeah.
happened. You know what I mean? And just to reiterate, it's completely understandable that clients get that way. I would be the same way. If
Oh,
you're a
yeah.
stranger on the phone, I don't know who you are. There's got to be some sort of trust built
It
somehow.
felt very scammy at first.
I get it. Again, I
I
understand.
I sat back and I was like, I have no clue who this is that called me and no clue what we're about to do. But sometimes you got to trust the process.
Yes, exactly.
And knowing that it turned out the way that it did, if I could go back and talk to my past self and tell her to just trust it and go for it all the first time instead of being so hesitant, I probably would have done that.
Which is look, that's water under the bridge. Luckily, you're still fine. It still worked out. But
Yeah.
that's the number one thing I tell people is make sure you get enough the first time because it works out better that way. But you're fine. You know what I mean? It's not like you that hurts you or anything. Like, but I get what you're saying completely.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
look,
yeah. I'm so glad that we did a test run the first time and got a little
yeah.
bit because of my anxious nature to say
Yeah,
that.
some people have to do it that way, which at the end of the day, whatever option you guys tell us is what we're gonna ultimately proceed with. So I'm just glad it ultimately worked out for you. I'm glad you have no regrets. That's amazing to hear. I'm glad to hear that Brian did what I expected him to do.
Yeah.
And I really, really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I see you're busy, you have three kids. So thank you
Yeah.
so much. I'm gonna do one more thing. I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna screen share and I'm going to show the original payments as they were. I redacted all your personal information, and I'm going to do the same thing on the disclosure that shows the numbers, just so they can
Okay.
see you're a real person. And that will be it. I'm going to screen share if I can find it. There we go. So this is going to be the disclosure, right? So I redacted your last name, redacted the aggregate because it's completely unnecessary. This is the big one, right? This is the one you got to get the house, I'm assuming.
Yes, it is.
And then there's your signature. And then this is the benefits letter. Insurance company was Genworth, obviously, or I guess I should say is. And this is the original structure. So very real. Ultimately, it sounds like you have no regrets. And I'm very thankful that you did put your trust in us. I really am. So I thank you so much. And I thank you for taking this time because I know you're busy and I'll let you go. I'm done talking your ear off. But thank you so
Okay.
much for sharing your story. What's nice is you're going to be able to help other people that are in similar situations.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm very thankful for you.
And I am so thankful that y'all came back and asked me to do this because I have told other people about it since that I don't because I know a few people that have also been through similar situations. And if I want them to deal with anybody, I want them to deal with people that I would trust. So
Thank you so much. Seriously, I appreciate you, and I hope you have a great day. Obviously, if you ever need me, Brian can give you my number, but I know he's your guy. So if you ever need us, we're here. All right. I appreciate you so much, and have a great day.
thank you, you too.
Thank you.